April in 1960, one of the most influential bands of the era was formed, the Beatles. The Beatles consisted of John Lennon, Paul McCartney, Ringo Starr, and George Harrison. Today, the group is known as the best-selling music artists in the United States, and in 1984, they were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Sadly, John Lennon was assassinated in 1980, and George Harrison died of lung cancer in 2011. The last two remaining Beatles are Ringo Starr and Paul McCartney. Or maybe not. On January 7th, 1967, the car belonging to Paul McCartney got into a car crash, and consequently, a few newspapers reported that he died. In actuality, Paul McCartney was never even in the car when it crashed, because he was at a party in Sussex. The person driving the car was Mohammed Hadjish, who was using the car to bring drugs to the party that Paul McCartney was at. Naturally, a few rumors stating that Paul was dead began to spread, but they didn't make it too far. One thing that really secured this rumor was a song released in 1969 by Terry Knight named St. Paul. Some people believe that the song hinted at Paul McCartney's death, but it's more likely that the song was about how Knight believed that the Beatles would soon break up. Either way, we can't really make any conclusions based off of this, because the lyrics were very cryptic, so it really could have been interpreted as a bunch of different things. The actual first mention of the rumor was in a student newspaper of Drake University in 1969. The newspaper article was titled, "Is Beatle Paul McCartney Dead?" This article did not receive much attention, but later something happened which really ignited the rumor. On October 12th of that year, the DJ of a Detroit radio station took a call from a college student named Tom Zarsky. Zarsky told the DJ everything about the Paul is dead rumor, and as proof, told him to play Revolution No. 9 from the Beatles' White Album backwards. The DJ did so, and was very clearly able to hear the words, "Turn me on, dead man." Here is Revolution 9 played forward. Number 9, number 9, number 9, number 9, number 9. And here it is played backwards. Turn me on, dead man. 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 Now, normally when I hear people talking about hidden messages being played in songs, the messages are extremely difficult to hear, and I would have never known what the message was unless I was told. But for this one, I think we can agree that it is very clear what it sounds like, which is, "Turn me on, dead man." This is where the rumor really took off. Ever since the rumor took off, fans have been finding a bunch of signs which they believe indicate the death of Paul McCartney. Essentially, people believe that Paul McCartney died in the car crash on November 9th, but was replaced by the winner of a Paul McCartney lookalike contest named William Campbell, in order to save their career and not break the hearts of the fans. In addition to what was already said, there were more clues present. A couple clues were seen on the Beatles' 8th studio album cover. One of the first things that people have pointed out about this cover is how the floral arrangement seems as if it's for a funeral. They also note that in the bottom right corner, the flowers are in the form of a left-handed bass guitar, which is the instrument that Paul played. People also note that the flowers spell out Beatles, but the flowers at the end of it seem to form the letter O. So together, it would spell out B at Leso, which is the name of a Greek island that they supposedly bought. Some people speculate that this is the Beatles inviting fans who discovered Paul's death to the island. These points are pretty weak in my opinion. If you look closely at the ragdoll on the cover, you can also see a toy Aston Martin convertible, which is the car that Paul supposedly died in. Another clue, which seems kind of cool, but it's also sort of a stretch, has to do with the drum in the center that says Lonely Hearts. If you bisect the Lonely Hearts, you'll get the phrase, I won, IX, he die. If I1 is 11, and IX is the Roman numeral for 9, then you could decode this as 11-9, he die, which would mean November 9th, he die, which is the day that the car crash happened. One of the final hints in the cover is that someone is raising their hand behind Paul, which in some religions is a symbol of death, or the guy could just be waving. There's also a few things people have noticed about the Beatles' 9th album. On one of the images on the poster inside the album shows Paul McCartney laying in a tub of water. Some people think this looks like a decapitated head floating in blood. In addition, the song Glass Onion contains the lyrics, "Looking through a glass onion." According to the DJ that I mentioned earlier, the term glass onion was British slang for the handle of a casket, because in the 19th century, caskets had glass handles that looked like glass onions. Apparently, Paul is looking through this because he's dead. Finally, the cover of the Abbey Road album has been analyzed by supporters of the Paul is dead theory. So, in this picture, Paul is seen holding a cigarette with his right hand, even though he was left-handed. So this might indicate that the person in this picture is indeed not the real Paul. Lastly, this picture was supposedly taken at the area where the car crash happened. So, here's what I think of all this. I'm almost certain that Paul is not dead yet. I don't think the evidence is convincing enough, and there's a lot of things that just don't make sense or are flat out false. First of all, if Paul actually did die and the Beatles were covering up his death, then why would they give us hints? That seems really counterproductive. Also, people say that Paul was replaced with someone named William Campbell who won a Paul McCartney lookalike contest in Edinburgh. Funny thing is, I can't find anything about a Paul McCartney lookalike contest, nor can I find any person named William Campbell who won such a contest. And let's just say this is true, and someone named William Campbell did replace Paul. Then, when William dies, who's the funeral going to be for? William or Paul? That would have to cause some issues. And lastly, it's a bit strange that the lookalike would also have the same exact voice as Paul. And if simple logic isn't enough, there's some evidence that the Paul is dead theory supporters have discovered that is simply false. They mentioned how on the Magic Mystery Tour cover, Paul is wearing a walrus suit. This is apparently significant because walrus means corpse in Greek. I don't know who made this up, but it's absurd. Walrus does not mean corpse in Greek. Some people also believe that at the end of Strawberry Fields, you can hear John Lennon saying, "I buried Paul," but in reality he's actually saying, "cranberry sauce." Finally, people say that in the Abbey Road cover, it is significant that Paul is barefoot, because people in Italy are buried barefoot. First of all, I don't see how an Italian culture has any significance in this, and second, I was not able to find anything at all about Italians specifically being buried barefoot. People have even went as far as to say that in this picture, there's a cemetery off to the left outside the frame, and this is just a blatant lie. Although there might have been one or two subtle things at the beginning that could have led some people to believe that Paul is dead, there really isn't anything left that could lead anyone to believe that he seriously is dead. The rumor was interesting to look into, but that's all it is, a rumor. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the flip side. Loneliness, rejection, and the need to feel loved by someone are emotions that most of us can identify with. Dealing with these emotions can often bring up feelings of inadequacy or even anger. Many people are able to find healthy ways of dealing with feelings like these, while others can only resort to destruction, which is exactly what Elliot Rodger did when he murdered 6 innocent people on May 23, 2014. One of the reasons why I personally think the whole Elliot Rodger case is interesting is because of his videos he uploaded to YouTube prior to the massacre he committed. There are 21 videos of his uploaded to YouTube, so I'll just quickly walk you through them. The first video on his channel was uploaded on February 14th, 2014. The video just depicts him admiring the sunset while listening to Heaven is a Place on Earth while drinking coffee. His next 2 videos are just him filming a plane landing after his vacation in England, and the next video is just 26 seconds of a 4th of July party. Elliot Rodger's next video just shows him talking to his younger brother, Jazz, at an overlook. He seemed like a pretty decent older brother from this video, and we know that he was because in Elliot Rodger's manifesto, he wrote about how he actually ended up saving his brother from drowning one time. Just makes you think how Jazz thinks of him now, knowing that he was a killer. His next video depicts him walking through a park, reminiscing about his childhood.
That's where my father taught me how to swing. I used to climb this tree.
At one point in the video, he encounters a lady walking her dog. It's not really relevant, but I just thought seeing one of his interactions with a stranger was interesting.
Oh,
Hey, it's all right.
is he friendly?
Yeah, normally he is, but he's a little worried about your camera.
No, that's okay.
His next 4 videos just show him driving in his car while listening to 80s music. However, the description of the 4th one was sort of interesting. It said, "I temporarily took down all of my vlogs due to the alarm it caused with some people in my family. I'll post more updates in the future." I went to the Wayback Machine to try to find an archive of the page before May 1st, which was when this video was posted, to see if I could find at least one of the titles of the vlogs that he removed. I couldn't find any though. His next video, however, does say in the description that it was a re-upload of one of the vlogs that he removed. But still, this is only one of those vlogs, and it sounded like he was talking about several. So, onto the vlog he re-uploaded. It's titled, "Being Lonely on Spring Break Sucks." He just talks about how lonely he is and how girls don't like him.
Right now it's spring break. Everyone else my age is out having fun with their friends and their girlfriends. Here I am, taking lonely walks through a park.
But he does note at one part that the beauty of the park helps him forget about his pain, while others are having fun on spring break.
But still, I have to admire the beauty of this place.
His next videos are once again just him driving in his BMW while listening to 80s music. His next video that actually consisted of something was titled, "Why Do Girls Hate Me So Much?" In this video, he's pretty much just rambling about his loneliness again, but a little bit of narcissism does shine through. He talks about how great of a guy he is and how he's the one who deserves all the girls, not everyone else. His next video is extremely similar to this one. He once again rambles about his loneliness and even goes as far as to say that it is an injustice that other guys can get a girl, but he can't.
I've had to rot in loneliness all my life. It's not fair. It's such an injustice.
In the next video, he speaks more about his childhood. He mentions that he wishes he could be a child again because that was when life seemed more fair. This is a point that he emphasizes a lot in his manifesto. The way he describes it is that when he was a kid, people were more equal, but as he grew up, he started to realize the hierarchy that set people apart. He at one part says in the video that he hates girls since none of them ever liked him.
No girls liked me. And I hate them all for it.
His next video is also a little weird. He's filming a couple at the beach from his car and talking about how envious he is of them. He speaks about how much fun they must be having and what they'll probably be doing when they get home. He talks about how nobody loves him and even says that he hates the couple. Several times in this video he says life isn't fair.
This is the reason why life isn't fair.
The final video available on his channel was uploaded on May 23rd, 2014 and is titled Elliot Rodger Lonely Vlog, Life is So Unfair. In this video, he's at a golf course talking about how the beauty of the environment is one of his only escapes. His narcissism shines through again when he sees his reflection in the car and talks about how awesome he is.
Check it out. There's me. In all my fabulousness. Oh yeah. Elliot Rodger. I am so awesome.
Once he's in the car, he once again talks about how unfair life is and ends the video by saying that his predicament is an injustice that needs to be dealt with.
It's an injustice that needs to be dealt with.
This actually wasn't his final video though. His last video isn't on his channel for some reason, but it was called Elliot Rodger's Retribution. In the video, he says that he will punish girls for not liking him. He isn't very clear about what he means by punishing them, until he says that he will take great pleasure in slaughtering them.
I'll take great pleasure in slaughtering all of you.
He shares his plans to murder girls in a sorority house, and then go to the streets of Isla Vista and kill every single person he sees.
After I've annihilated every single girl in the sorority house, I'll take to the streets of Isla Vista and slay every single person I see there.
A few hours prior to uploading this video, Elliot Rodger had already begun his attack. In his apartment, he ended up stabbing to death both of his roommates and one of their friends. Later that night, at about 9:17, he uploaded his retribution video that I just showed you, and then emailed his manifesto to about a dozen acquaintances and family members. His manifesto can be read online if you're curious about it. After uploading the video, he carried out the plan that he described. He drove to a sorority house near the University of California, Santa Barbara, and knocked on the door for a few minutes, but no one answered. At this point, he just shot 3 Delta 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 sorority sisters who happened to be nearby, killing 2 of them and injuring 1. He got back into his car and drove around the city, continuing to kill several more people. While on the rest of his rampage, he ended up shooting 8 people and also hit 7 people with his car. His massacre ended when he crashed his car and then shot himself in the head. All in all, he murdered 6 people and injured 14. One thing that I found particularly interesting about Elliot Rodger was that a lot of the issues that led him to doing this actually were problems that weren't all that uncommon. I know that there are a lot of other factors that weigh into this, but the main reason he was driven to do all of this was because he was lonely and felt unloved by everyone. These are emotions that I'm sure a lot of us can identify with. I believe this is the reason why you can find so many people in the comment section that can relate to this guy. The only difference between Elliot and the other lonely people is that Elliot was crazy enough to resort to killing people. I want to make it clear that I am in no way trying to justify this guy's actions because there's absolutely no excuse to kill anyone. I'm just saying that it isn't terribly unusual to have some type of understanding of him. Like I said earlier, there was obviously some other things that were wrong with him, since a normal person dealing with these issues would not have went out and killed a bunch of people. A lot of people assume that Elliot Rodger was a psychopath, but I personally don't think he was for one main reason. To my understanding, psychopaths are usually very charming people and have very good social skills, so it would be very easy for a psychopath to get a girlfriend. However, Elliot obviously struggled with this. Another controversial thing going around is that Elliot Rodger had Asperger's or high functioning autism, but I don't know if this is actually true or not. I'm not completely denying that he was somewhere on the spectrum, but I've heard from other people with autism that his childhood behavior that he detailed in his manifesto doesn't really match up with the usual behavior of a child who is somewhere on the spectrum. Another disorder that a lot of people speculate Elliot may have had was narcissistic personality disorder, and I actually agree with that. Starting out with the obvious, this guy showed a lot of narcissistic traits in a lot of his videos. He literally titled one of them, "I'm Awesome," and in one video, he talks about how awesome he is when he sees his own reflection. Not to mention that he always talks about how much of an injustice it is that girls don't like him. In his final video, he even compares himself to a god.
I will be a god compared to you. We'll all be animals. You are animals, and I will slaughter you like animals.
Running through a quick list of narcissistic personality disorder traits make it clear that he has quite a few of these symptoms. But then again, I'm obviously not a psychologist or anything like that, so I honestly have no idea. Maybe he was a psychopath, or maybe he did have autism, or maybe he was just depressed. Honestly, I can only speculate. At the end of the day, Elliot Rodger was a lonely person who felt like women as a whole wronged him, when in reality, they probably just didn't even know he existed. Although the pain he was feeling was real, he had absolutely no excuse to kill people as a result. I'm sure everyone can agree with me when I say that a better solution would have been to get to the root of his problem and fix it. Thank you for watching, and I will see you on the flip side.